Dear friends, welcome to another episode of Today in the Military World. In this video, we will talk about another serious warning issued by the NATO Secretary General, who said that either member countries increase their investments in defense now, or they will have to learn to speak Russian. If you're not yet subscribed to the channel, subscribe now and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any updates. To understand the impact of this statement, we need to revisit the context in which it was made. Mark Hutt, who recently assumed the role of NATO Secretary General, made his first appearance at the European Parliament on January 13, 2025. In his speech, he emphasized that the challenges facing Europe require a more robust response in terms of defense investments. Currently, the target set for member countries is 2% of GDP. However, Hutt was categorical in stating that this is not enough in light of the growing threat posed by Russia. He declared that everything being done at the moment is nowhere near sufficient, stressing that if member countries do not increase their spending within the next 4 to 5 years, the alliance will no longer be secure. He concluded by saying that either the alliance decides to invest more now, or they should start learning Russian. This harsh and blunt statement was met with surprise and divided opinions among European leaders. To understand the seriousness of this warning, it is essential to acknowledge the historical moment Europe is facing. The war in Ukraine remains a constant reminder that the continent's stability cannot be taken for granted. Additionally, Russia has shown its ability to launch destabilization campaigns, both military and cyber, directly threatening NATO's interests. And, of course, we cannot ignore the role of the United States in this dynamic. Since the beginning of his first term, Donald Trump made it clear that the U.S. was unwilling to shoulder the burden of European defense alone. In 2018, he proposed doubling the spending limit to 4% of GDP. During his recent presidential campaign, he reiterated that NATO members need to do much more to protect the continent, even stating that he would propose increasing the base investment threshold for alliance defense to 5% of GDP for all member states, more than double the current level of investment in this sector. Despite Trump's strong, even aggressive stance, Hutt acknowledged this American pressure as a positive factor. He stated that since Trump took office in 2016, member countries have increased their spending by more than $640 billion. He said that Russia's large-scale invasion of Ukraine also contributed to this increase but recognized that Trump, with all his rhetoric and pressure, was decisive in driving these investments. This acknowledgement raises a fundamental question: is NATO prepared to deal with a possible scenario in which the United States reduces its support? The alliance's dependence on American military power has been criticized and reflects an imbalance that could undermine its effectiveness in the future. Not all European leaders agree with Hutt and Trump's approach. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz, for example, criticized the idea of increasing spending, questioning where these resources would come from. Germany, as one of Europe's largest economies, faces difficulties reconciling its domestic priorities with international demands. On the other hand, figures like David Lammy, the UK's Foreign Secretary, support the idea of greater European responsibility. The British Secretary stated that Donald Trump and J.D. Vance are right to say that Europe needs to do more to defend its own continent, classifying it as naive to think otherwise while Russia continues to invade and destroy Ukraine. These internal divergences highlight one of NATO's biggest challenges: reaching consensus among its members. The need to protect the continent is undeniable, but the economic, political, and cultural differences between countries make a unified approach difficult. One of the central points of Hutt's speech was the need to align NATO and the European Union more closely, a convergence seen as essential to combating Russia's destabilization campaigns. Cooperation between these two entities could strengthen defense capabilities, improve strategic coordination, and, above all, increase responsiveness against hybrid war threats from Russia on the continent. However, this integration also presents challenges. The European Union has its own political and economic priorities, which do not always align perfectly with NATO's objectives. Additionally, actions by countries like Turkey, which often have conflicting interests, complicate the situation further. NATO's future will depend on the decisions made in the coming months, with Hutt emphasizing that time is a crucial factor. He stated that this debate needs to be resolved in the next 3 or 4 months to ensure Europe's security, a sense of urgency reflecting the perception that threats to European security are immediate and growing. Meanwhile, the alliance will face the challenge of balancing its defense needs with the economic and political constraints of its members. Are European leaders truly willing to prioritize collective security over other interests? This is the big question that will determine the future of the alliance and, in practice, the security of Europe. As stated by Hutt, international security is a collective responsibility, and the price of peace can be high. If you're not yet subscribed to the channel, subscribe now and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any updates.